that's where a lot of people fail, because they think to run a successful business means you have to have loads of people, and you don't.
Have you noticed that all the content you're creating has really helped compound the things you're doing?
If you're not visible, you're invisible. So definitely I think having an online presence has helped, but not just posting rubbish. If you're working in recruitment, you have to liken it to the dating game.
There's actually a lot of similarities, to be honest.
In the simplest form, you are matching somebody to something that you hope they're going to like, but you've got to get to know them. You've got to take your clients out on dates to get to know them, to get them interested in your service. We're covering some topics today, Harry, that people don't usually talk about, but you wanted a good podcast, so I'm giving you it.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Acquired Podcast. Today we have a very special guest, Kameron Hutchinson, Cameron with a K. Cameron has been working at Allsopp and Allsopp Recruitment as a director and also a founder of the YP Club. There's plenty other things that Cameron's involved in that we talk about today, but Cameron, it's a pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Now, of course, we started talking about all the stuff you do now, the Allsopp and Allsopp Recruitment, YP Club, but I sort of want to go back to where it all started. Especially at the age of 15. I saw this on your Instagram where you're actually doing jet washing cars.
Yes.
And I think that was that your first entrepreneurial venture?
That was my first entrepreneurial venture, jet washing cars. And it's funny because the podcast that I did that I kind of spoke about on that, I'd not spoken about that whole era of my life ever since I'd moved to Dubai. And it was only through the pre-podcast meet that we did. And the guy asked me a few questions and I said it kind of by accident. And he was like, "Oh, you did that?" I was like, yes, I did it. So yeah, that was my first foray into entrepreneurialism. I guess I would class myself now as an intrapreneur. Again, I've spoken about that on my social media quite a lot, which is the idea of being entrepreneurially spirited, but being inside a business.
Absolutely.
Which is where I kind of feel my strengths are more so than being completely on my own.
Yeah, I think that's something that a lot of people actually overlook, the entrepreneur versus intrapreneur. I feel like a lot of people, maybe for ego reasons, want to do everything themselves and just label themselves as an entrepreneur. But I think for most people, actually, there's huge opportunity in becoming an intrapreneur. So how did that actually happen for you? What was the journey for you, maybe from 15, where you maybe decided, I want to be an entrepreneur? How did it all progress into becoming an intrapreneur on a large growing company?
So I guess I don't really conform. That's the problem. And some people, especially in the corporate world, would look at you and go, well, you don't conform so much, and therefore you're probably not right for our business. When I say that, I don't mean I go against the grain on every single decision, but I'm quite free-spirited. And I think free-spirited people often end up being entrepreneurs, or rather intrapreneurs. What I particularly like, though, about the job that I do is I have the freedom to be able to do what I want, so long as it makes the business money, obviously. But I have the freedom to be able to bring that free-spirited approach, but I like having guidelines. No, I didn't say rules. I don't want to be defined by rules, but a guideline to work towards, and that works for me and my working spirit or my working style. I agree. I think people do feel egotistical when they talk about being an entrepreneur. There was a big flood during COVID, right? During the pandemic, everybody became an entrepreneur, and they all became social media influencers. And I run my own business, and I've got nothing against those people, but there is something to be said for holding down and successfully carving out a career in the professional world, but doing it with your own style. And I'm quite unique that I've got very understanding bosses, I should say, in Carl and Lewis, the owners of Allsopp and Allsopp Group. And that's probably the reason I've stayed with the group for the length of time that I have. I've been there for 8 years, but I don't generally tend to move. If I rewind back to my previous job, I was there for nearly a decade. So I tend to stay in places a long time if I feel comfortable. But when you say the word comfortable, people go, "Oh, you're lazy then." No, if I look at my roles and what they started as versus what they are now, they're vastly different. But you've got to meet your employer halfway, right?
Yeah.
If you just expect a salary every month and you expect the job to remain the same, fine. Yeah. If you want growth and you're ambitious and you push in the right way, things can then work out for you more in an entrepreneurial spirited way than maybe being a business owner on your own.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think something that's really important there is not remaining comfortable, as in you're in the current, role, or not even the current role, but the same company. It's because everyone in that company is growing, and you're growing with a team as opposed to just trying to do everything by yourself. And I think some people, especially in recruitment, we can talk about this, people hop from job to job a lot, and it's probably,
You do
something
see
that you do
it.
look out for quite a lot. But I think definitely not comfortable being at one company so long as the team is growing.
Yes.
Right? And the environment of the team is changing. Like, for example, at Allsopp and Allsopp, the real estate, where you're the recruitment director, and I imagine you still do some recruitment.
I do loads of recruitment.
Loads of recruitment for them. They've grown from when you first started there, was it around 70 people to 500 plus now over the span of 8 years or so?
8 years, yeah.
That's huge growth. So
huge growth, but huge growth because the market's allowed us to grow, right? It's not been uncontrolled. And I think that's where a lot of people fail, because they think to run a successful business means you have to have loads of people. And you don't. And actually we're nowhere near as big as what perhaps people think we are. There are much larger agencies than us from a real estate perspective. But what we do well with the people that we have, and we grow when the market allows us to. Sometimes you see agencies, and I'm talking specifically about real estate agencies now, they'll just flood the market with loads of agents, won't necessarily have any training, won't necessarily have a good onboarding program, won't have the L&D functionality to be able to make those people successful. And of course, then what happens? They leave.
Sure.
And then the growth that this business looks like it has falls away. I've been quite lucky again to be surrounded by a good management team within Allsopp and Allsopp. Me and my team hire the people, and beyond, there's a really great infrastructure for people to be successful.
Okay, amazing. And I find that really interesting, obviously saying growing when the market allows you to. Is that something that you think you've noticed in Dubai? It's an emerging market that you've been able to take advantage of here? Or do you think there's other aspects at play?
There's no denying more people are coming to Dubai, right? Let's
Sure.
be very clear that Dubai is the place to be. I was at an event yesterday, and they were talking about Dubai being this really unique microcosm. Even though there's lots of other countries around the UAE which are wealthy, they don't necessarily have the infrastructure or the understanding or the interest in wanting to further and develop. And you think that the UAE has been established, if you like, for 53 years this year. Only 53 years.
Is that it?
Yeah. 50. We will have the 53rd National Day in December. Look at what has been achieved. And of course, Allsopp and Allsopp has only been here for 16 years. I've only been here for 8 years. And I think looking at how much has changed, even in the 8 years that I've been here, it works. And we're going way off tangent here, because now if I snowball into the fact that the UAE has had one government, throughout. In many respects, we're governed by a monarchy, right? That's how it is, and people mistake that for being a dictatorship, and of course that has a negative connotation. But I don't think there's any denying that there is clear correlation between one steady government or monarchy and the growth of an economy, and you can see that with the UAE. Not to bash other places, and I'll talk about my own home country. I love it. But each 4 years, there's a new shift of power, and there's a new requirement for, we need to do things this way. Stick at it for 53 years, and you end up having a city which just pops up out of the desert, and you're like, wow, okay, this is incredible. Yeah,
absolutely. No, I completely agree. I think it hands itself well with anything we talk about, whether it's, growth of a government or an economy or a business. It's like compounding interest, right? Over time, if you stick at one thing for a long, long time, you get pretty good at it, right? And I completely agree. I think in the UK, I don't like to speak about politics. I'm not very political myself, but you can see, sometimes where it gets a bad name, and you can see why. But here, I didn't know it's only been 53 years. You look around outside, you would not think it for 1 second.
It's incredible.
The amount of development that happens.
And we're nowhere near finished. Let's just make it clear. If you look at a map of Dubai and the UAE generally, it's quite parallel in terms of the development to the ocean. There's only a very small band really which is being developed. So there is so much more that can be developed. And rather than going inland, you'll notice a lot of the developments are actually going out into the ocean, right?
Yeah. The Palm.
The Palm, World Islands, the New Palm, Deira Islands, all of these places. That, as somebody that lives here, that operates in a business and operates another business within that business, fills me with so much hope, because I'm like, look at all of these, look at the growth that Dubai has and the UAE generally, and then when you narrow it right down to what our business does, we facilitate people to get jobs and buy homes. So Great business to be in.
Perfect timing, right? Perfect timing to be here. So yeah, I just think there's so much opportunity out here in Dubai at the moment, whatever you do. But I think, yeah, for recruitment especially, there's a wealth of opportunity. Now, I'm going to deviate slightly and go into more the recruitment side of things.
Let's do it.
I know a lot of people watching this will be recruiters, maybe owning their own recruitment agency or their own recruitment business, or be at least part of a recruitment business. And a lot of them, I think, especially the conversation I've had in the UK, now it's very easy to operate globally as a business since COVID. Some of them are looking at opportunities in the UAE, some US, basically globally. What have you really noticed growing a business in the UAE, and especially the Allsopp recruitment side of things? What have you really noticed, getting that off the ground? Because I believe that was founded in 21, 2 years ago?
3 years, yeah.
3 years ago,
We've just gone past the 3-year mark. And what I would say is, totally agree, things can be done globally now. Perhaps we'll use the word remote. You can operate a business from wherever you are in the world now. A lot of businesses, not all. You clearly can't do surgery on somebody if you're not in the same country as them. But from a recruitment perspective, I think it really opened up the market. One, for you being able to be based wherever you like, but two, to be quite industry agnostic, which is what we are as an agency. And not many people know that. They see our name associated with a real estate brand and go, oh, well, you just recruit for real estate agents, right? No. We have real estate clients, yes, but we would never do anything which would deter from the success of Allsopp and Allsopp Group. Moreover, we work with businesses outside of the real estate industry. So some government, some semi-government, large corporations, SMEs, and homegrown business here. And bringing it right back to your question about what have I noticed, how much business there is in the UAE. And we operate from Dubai, our headquarters is here, but we have clients in all of the Emirates in the UAE, across the GCC and Middle East. We've also now got clients that have opened up in UK and USA and Europe, because actually it doesn't matter where we're based, you can facilitate a service, right? We all have access to LinkedIn, we all have access to other portals. We can all have an online brand which attracts people to us. The whole reason you got in touch was you saw my Instagram. If you're not online and you're not doing business, that's one thing. But if you are, your business could be based wherever. I don't think people necessarily use us because we're based in Dubai. They use us because they know of us and who we are, of course. But if we had a satellite office in Singapore, people would still use us. But I'm really, really pleasantly surprised by the amount of business which is here in the UAE, and how much entrepreneur spirit and how many startups there are. And we've had tremendous success with startup businesses here in the UAE. Amazing. Probably because we're a startup, they look at us and go, well, you understand the pain points, you know what it's like. And we're able to offer that arm around that goes, don't worry, it gets better over time.
Because I was going to say, as a startup, myself included, starting up business, a lot changes very quickly. Would you say it's sometimes a challenge to recruit for startups, given how many pivots they might make in the early days, different things happening? What are some of the challenges that you see, particularly recruiting for startups, and maybe ways you overcome that?
Well, let's start off by saying that startups often have a tight cash flow, right? So offering an attractive payment scheme for startups to be able to operate with us is definitely important. But there's also a huge hunger to get it right? Because you are a startup, you can't afford to go, we'll just hire 5 people, see who sticks. No, it's quite calculated in terms of the people that you need to hire. So I think there's actually a more concentrated service level that we need to give a startup to actually get to know the individual that we're hiring. It's not okay to just say, they've got the skills and the experience on the CV, but what are they actually like? Are they going to be prepared to make a cup of tea in the morning, hoover the carpet, greet the guests, do an interview? Like, they have to be able to do everything in that startup mentality rather than just, that's my job and that's all I'm going to do. In a startup, you've got to roll your sleeves up and be prepared to do all of the jobs, whatever they might be. So we have to offer that service, and we have to get to know the candidate, perhaps even better than we would do a traditional client. And that's not to say we don't do a good job on the clients that we already have, but there is a certain next level or a depth that we have to go to when we're hiring for startups. And what shall I say, the satisfaction you get from seeing the hire turn into a really successful employee, the business then grows again, year 2, year 3, year 4. If you retain that client, you're like, remember, I got you in at the beginning.
Yeah.
And when you get the thank you, that's always nice, right?
I can imagine. Yeah, no, 100%. I think especially for startups, like the cost of a bad hire, it can be like make or break for a lot of businesses.
Yeah.
So I completely understand why you need to hold their hand a little bit more. You're more of like a talent partner with them. You're really an integration to their business. And I think doing, you know, some business development for our clients and things like that, that's something that's very attractive to companies as well. Not just a recruiter and, you know, we throw you some resumes, you pay us 20% and job's done or whatever it is. It's actually being more of a partner.
Yes.
Is that how you like to position yourself in terms of like business development aspects as well? What sort of feeling do you like to give your clients? How do you like to position yourself in the market? More of a partner or volume approach, or what do you think is best?
Definitely not volume. And I hold a very unique seat, in my opinion, in terms of my service offering, because on one side of the fence, I am an internal TA. So I understand the pain points and I understand what it's like to hire internally for a business. I'm a hiring manager on one side. But on the other side of the fence, I'm a recruiter and I operate a contingent agency. So I understand from both sides what's kind of needed, because I've ran PSLs, I've booted people off my PSL because they've not been very good or they've not delivered. I've onboarded new recruitment agencies. So I like to think that I offer a fully bespoke service, which you could speak to any one of our clients and there will be similarities, but each client should, I hope, say, yeah, you know what, we get a really personalised service because you have to. And I think it goes back to this whole post-pandemic thing. And again, being industry agnostic, gone are the days where you would get a role, you put it online, you wait for the applications, and we're talking a long, long time ago, and we've already established I'm severely older than you. So I ran things a bit different when I was your age, but you can't just rely on put the job up, hope for LinkedIn to do its magic and share the 3 top CVs. No, you've got to meet with these people. And that can be difficult if they're in different countries, but made much easier now that you can do things online. So I think we are not a CV sharing service. If you want that, then you can get a subscription to LinkedIn. You can put I'm hiring and you can kiss goodbye to the next God knows how many hours because you'll be inundated with candidates. If you're looking for somebody to plug into your business, understand it. I'm going to come and visit you. I'm going to come and see what the vibe is. Have you got music on in your office? How are you dressed? What kind of cars are there in the car park? Like, I want to see the vibe. Because if I'm introducing you to a candidate, and let's face it, a new job, buying a house, getting married, losing somebody, these are all big moments in people's lives. A job shouldn't be overlooked as a big moment in somebody's life. So if I'm saying, no, trust me, I've met Harry. I've seen his office. I've seen how he operates. I've seen what he likes and what he doesn't like. I'm more likely to be able to pinpoint the best talent for you rather than, oh yeah, Harry, yeah, these 3 CVs said they've got the skills on that you wanted, yeah. And that happens still in today's market. And we're not just talking about the UAE here, but that happens in recruitment all over. You'd get CVs, and I used to get CVs when we used to operate with third parties before we started Allsopp and Allsopp Executive Search. They hadn't even been spoken to, Harry. So you say, oh yeah, I'm interested in this candidate. You'd speak to them. Oh, you know, so did you have a chat with, you know, so-and-so recruiter? Never heard from them. Just got a message to say I was recruiting and your profile looked good and here's the CV. You want me to pay 20%? Wow, okay, no problem. So yeah, definitely talent partner rather than volume or CV scraping. That's not us.
Absolutely. I think that's really like fundamental. People forget, I think, especially like trying to grow recruitment businesses and trying to grow them remote. Recruitment's a people's business. Right? It's just built off relationships and built off people.
Yep.
It's not just, you know, getting a load of CVs, throwing them at the wall, seeing what sticks. But I think a lot of people have that approach. Would you say then, because you have, you know, Allsopp and Allsopp Recruitment or Executive Search has grown quickly, would you say that's been like one of the cornerstones of your business development, to have everything more of like a white glove approach, more of a talent partner, and that's how you position yourself? Would you attribute some of your growth and success to that approach for business development as opposed to just doing high volume? Or
yeah, listen, don't get me wrong, that's one side of the business. We also then have the real estate side, which is a little bit more volume. and if you ever have known anybody that's operated in commission-only real estate, it's really hard. So I am familiar with sort of volume versus non-volume, but definitely the way we operate has attributed to the success. But I think just getting on a level with clients, and I'm not suggesting that I'm friends with every client. I do make it my mission to check in with them, and if they've had something good happen or something bad happen, I'm there to check in. And maybe that comes from me being an estate agent before I did this job. You would want to check in with your vendors and your sellers to make sure that they're okay. But I think people assume that sending a WhatsApp is enough, and actually you need to go beyond that. For instance, literally, client last week said, we should catch up. I said, I'll come and visit you. No, we'll just do online. I'll come and see you. I've not seen you in ages. Oh, no, it's fine. We'll just do online because, And I was like, okay, we can. But honestly, when you get 5 minutes, even if it's a weekend, morning, evening, whatever, let's just get that human connection back. We're meeting tomorrow.
Amazing.
In person. And it just brings you back
definitely
on a level with each other rather than just catching up on WhatsApp. And we're all so busy nowadays. So definitely, I think, human contact, white glove, bespoke, they're all words that we all like to use. But if you don't actually follow through with it, it kind of means nothing.
A lot of people can say they say they do all this, but it might just be a WhatsApp message, as you say. I think people, I don't know what it is, just people are meeting up with their clients less, people are doing less face-to-face. It's an easy way to stand out. We tested this going into some of the campaigns that we run, where we were doing some emails out to prospective clients, and instead of call to action being a Zoom call or Google Meets, whatever it is, it was to meet up for a coffee. And you get 4 times the amount of responses, just from everything the same, but saying, would you meet up for a coffee? Firstly, I think everyone just pitches for a Zoom call, or goodness knows how many times you just get that on a day-to-day basis in your LinkedIn, right? Versus in person. It just stands out more, you get more of a better connection. And I think in terms of especially recruitment, you want to get to know people. You want to know what someone's actually like, because I think people online have a different presence to what they're like in real life. I'm sure you see that sometimes, not all the time. But ultimately it's just the importance of meeting face to face and doing things, very lucky to have this podcast with you today and do it face to face. Much better than just doing it over Zoom or Riverside. I think it's the recording software a lot of people use. So,
and there's nothing against that, because I understand that some people don't have the capability to be able to meet face to face. I understand that, but there is a noticeable difference in a bad way, in my opinion, when you don't meet face to face. And we'll use podcasts as an example. I've just found a new podcast. I'm listening to it at the moment, but it was filmed, part of it, because of how long ago it was, during COVID. And you can hear some of the podcast episodes are filmed on Zoom, and some of them are in person. I'm skipping past the online ones because I don't like the sound quality. There's an awkwardness between the guest and the presenter because you're not face to face, you're not reading each other's body language. Sometimes there's a lag or a delay. So I just think, yes, it takes more time, yes, it takes more effort, but it's worth it.
100%. Bring back the face-to-face meetings.
Bring back face-to-face. Bring back face-to-face meetings, please.
Absolutely. And I think that's something I've noticed as well, just being in Dubai. All the people that I've met up with, whether it's just a few, back and forth messages on Instagram, people were very keen to meet up. Just met with a friend and an associate just before this, and, we had been back and forth on Instagram a few times, but nothing beats meeting someone in person.
Agreed.
I think people in Dubai are much more, or seem to be much more open to that, right? People here to get business done as opposed to the UK. Everyone wants to be in the office.
Meet online or online generally. And actually the whole in-person thing extends beyond just meetings. But look around you at how many malls we have here in Dubai. The consumer behaviour here is we like to be out and about. We like to go shopping. We like to touch things. We like to see them. We like to have the material thing there. Whereas the consumer behaviour in the UK, and let's just look at the high street for a second, in many places it's gone because people prefer the online approach. I don't think either is better or worse. You can see different economies, but if I think about what I like living here, it is we'll go to the mall, which is just crazy because 8 years ago before I moved here, everything was online even in the UK then, whereas I like that interaction. The service goes back to the white glove service, right? I want to go buy something in a store and have that really nice service. Friends will say, "Oh, just buy it online. You can have it. You can have it delivered tomorrow." I want to go speak to the sales associate and see why I want to buy this particular model, or if there's another model that I might like instead. So old-fashioned, I guess. But
no, I think deep down as well, people in the UK do enjoy the experience of going out to the high street. It's just a shame in the UK, all those high street shops are dying. They're all shutting.
It's such a shame.
It is a shame. It is a shame, but more reason to move somewhere like here where
Shameless plug. People should move to Dubai, please.
But it is, like you say, just completely different.
Yeah.
I hadn't actually thought of it like that, but consumer behaviour and consumer buyers are very different out in Dubai as opposed to the UK. I'm sure there's probably some other differences you noticed moving from the UK to Dubai 8 years ago. What were some of the, of course, apart from the weather and things like that, what were some of the other things in business that you really noticed, and some of the like opportunities that popped up to you just being in Dubai as opposed to being in the UK when you first moved?
I guess it goes back to your earlier question and just how much business there is available here. I think because everybody that moves here has a generally same view that they want to be more successful than wherever they've been before. So whether they're moving from the UK or US or anywhere else, they're coming to the UAE because they want to be more successful. So I guess people are more tuned into wanting to do business with you, regardless of whether you're new or whether or not you're established. And one thing I found when I worked in the UK versus here is, and I'm lucky because we do have the brand name, but when we launched the recruitment agency here, it was, oh no, you're a real estate agent, you're not recruitment. Again, you meet them face to face, you explain to them the service, and you overcome that that barrier. But in the UK, I don't feel like newer businesses have as much as a shot because the economy is somewhat different. The demography is somewhat older. So well, I don't know your business. I've used XYZ agency before, so I'll use them. And then they tell their daughter and their son, and they end up using the same service. And something I found quite difficult when I was an estate agent in the UK, and I started a business, or a branch, under an established business in a very old market town that they had the top 3 agents, okay, the legacy agents, even though some of them were shit. I'm so sorry, I've said it now, but they were absolutely atrocious. But because the mothers, aunties, uncles, sisters, brothers, son used it 20 years ago, oh, well, we'll use the same agency. No, don't do that. Use a newer, fresher, somebody with ideas, somebody with a bit more energy. Use that agency. And that's how I overcome that, by being in front of people and showing them my energy. Mm-hmm. So I think definitely people are more open to doing business with unknown or lesser known companies or people. Of course, what unfortunately does happen is there's less regulation here, and you get lots of people that go, oh, the market's in a great place, I'll open a real estate agency, I'll open a recruitment agency. You may have the idea to open a business, but you may not have the acumen to be able to execute a successful business. And so we've seen a huge uptake recently in new businesses, recruitment and real estate businesses opening with little or no acumen on how to actually execute, which is then where an established brand like Allsopp Allsopp comes in, because people go, oh yes, of course, I know it, but we aren't stuck in our ways. We aren't
I think
lazy.
It's a balance of both, isn't it?
Huge.
Because, like you say, I've definitely noticed that in the UK market a lot. If someone knows someone's name, or have heard it from a friend or a family member that's used them, they'll just go with that. I think it's just out of comfort. Like, as we said, people just want to be comfortable rather than try something innovative or new or fresh. I think there's a lot more of that happening here. A lot more innovation in the market, people trying new things, experimenting. But any extreme is bad, right? If it's the one extreme where they only speak to people who they've heard of, then you'll miss out on everything. Then to the other extreme, if it's purely just like the freshest thing, freshest business out there.
You've got extremes, right? But do you think it's convenience? Because I'll tell you a very quick story. My wife and I bought our first property 8-ish years ago in the UK. We rented it out when we came here, and we're in the process of now re-renting the property. By default, stupidly, we went back to the agency that we bought the property from to see if they might be able to let the property for us, because we've used them before. It was okay. Big mistake. And I'm not going to name the agency because it's not fair. But I'll say this, don't use an agency just because you've used them before. Great if you had a great experience, but test them again. Try them again. Understand whether or not they're actually right for your needs, because we stupidly said, oh yeah, we'll use the same agency. And this is in the UK. Atrocious. We're now using a fresher, more modern, newer, more energetic business, and the results are completely different. But you think, oh yeah, if we used them before, they'll be fine.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that you shouldn't repeat business, because you definitely should. We should definitely have customer loyalty, but only if the experience has been good the first time.
Absolutely.
And continues to live up to expectations the second time.
Yeah, especially as markets are changing. Like over the 8 years, I'm sure the market's changed a lot, but I completely agree. It really is a lot of people down to convenience. Like if something's convenient for them, they'll just do it because they're not looking, I don't think all the time, you probably weren't looking for the very best, like going out of your way to look for the very best real estate agent. You're just thinking, okay, this will fill the hole, it will do the job.
Fit for need, fit for purpose,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think there's a difference and people should think about that, whether it's looking for their next hire and what recruitment agency to use. Do you want something that will just tick the box, do the job, nice and convenient, or do you want something that's actually going to make a impact and really serve its purpose and go up above and beyond? So,
but also, are you prepared to pay the fee that comes with that level of service? Because to offer that white glove, more bespoke, personalised service is going to cost you more than if you want your CV scraping. That'll do you.
Of course,
2 different services. 2 different fees.
2 different fees.
Sometimes people don't want to pay the higher fee.
This is what I've noticed in recruitment as well. People don't want to pay the higher fee, but what does that cost them down the line?
When it's the wrong hire, or maybe they've not filled the vacancy as quickly as they were hoping to.
Exactly. Yeah. But it is very difficult to get people to understand that. I don't know if it's just nature as humans, we're focused on probably 1 step ahead instead of the 10 steps. But obviously when operating a business, try and think as many steps ahead as you can, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So it's hard to people for people to overcome that sometimes. But I think it ties in very nicely to the whole content side of things, and especially as a recruiter, your LinkedIn is fantastic and Instagram as well.
Thank you.
When creating content around this, it's educating people. I think a big part of content, I believe, is just changing people's beliefs, and you're able to get your beliefs and say your beliefs and show it to the world, really. And I think that's been a big part. Have you noticed that all the content you're creating has really helped compound the things you're doing at your businesses and open the doors up to more connections and things like that?
I definitely think having a presence online is a deal breaker nowadays. I heard this saying, if you're not visible, you're invisible. It's so simple, but it literally rings true in so many things, from a branding perspective, from online, from a personal branding perspective. I, at points, will get more and better quality leads on Instagram.
Wow.
I know, I'm about to upset the people at LinkedIn, than LinkedIn.
That's
because
incredible.
I don't know whether or not it's a regional thing here, and I post consistently on Instagram and on LinkedIn. I don't always post the same content. Some is specific to each platform, but sometimes I can find the content on LinkedIn, the quality of the individuals doesn't necessarily match the job. Instagram, you're not posting a job, so people are seeing and buying into what you're actually talking about, and will generally then connect with you on a more personal level than more on a professional level. So I hate to say it, and if you are listening, please don't put my prices up, but I have actually found that Instagram recently has yielded a better quality of candidate because they're more bought into the personal aspect of what you're actually doing. And that's difficult for everybody to be able to quantify, but I'm sure having met me today, you would see I'm no different on my Instagram videos and LinkedIn videos than I am here in person. Hence why I kind of disagreed with you when you said people have a different persona online, because I'd like to think I'm quite genuine. That carries well in the business world because people want to deal with people that they like and that they trust, right? So definitely I think having an online presence has helped, but not just posting rubbish. And there's a whole podcast that we could talk about with regards to people posting rubbish. But I think as long as there's a value exchange in terms of what you're posting, and you begin and build and create a voice of authority, then there's definitely merit in it. But people either won't be consistent in what they post, or they'll perhaps forget what it is that their aim is and what they're trying to get out of posting online. And it becomes, oh, look at me, look what I've just bought, look what I'm doing, look where I'm on holiday. I will instantly tune out to those types of people because I've been there. I can go there if I want to. I don't need you to tell me how fantastic somewhere is. Don't get me wrong, there are some really great travel bloggers, but I want information. I want to learn. Sometimes I just want to mindlessly scroll, but sometimes I actually just want to have a value exchange. And if your content is valuable, then people will tune into it. And if it's not, then maybe they're not the right people on your pages, right?
Absolutely. No, that's really interesting though about the leads and the candidates you get from Instagram.
I know it's quite.
It makes sense. It does make sense. I think when you're hiring, obviously you want to consider culture, and that's such a big thing. And I think culture is portrayed much better through Instagram than LinkedIn, personally. I think especially more younger generations on LinkedIn have a certain perception of it, and you have to act all corporate and be professional, and it's, one of those platforms as opposed to Instagram. I feel like people can freely post a bit more about themselves and their personal lives. Maybe that's why you're getting, different interactions on Instagram and LinkedIn. That's really interesting though. It's a little tip.
But I push it, and I quite welcome it, because I've got nothing. My profile is open. You could go on there now and see. But I've been to an Emiratization recruitment event this morning. More people, so more Emirati candidates that we were speaking to asked for my Instagram handle than they did LinkedIn. And then of course what happens is you end up having a conversation because somebody goes, oh, you've got a dog. Oh, and you can instantly see on the grid. And I'm not saying Instagram is perfect, because it's not. There's still some changes that need to be made there to make it super valuable. But for me personally, I think actually people buying into your story from the word go, and you can do that from your highlights and your stories and everything. I think it really works. So it is a pro tip maybe.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely recommend some recruiters to do more of that.
Use Instagram more.
Yeah.
Are there any really, and you probably won't be able to mention it, I'm sorry, I shouldn't be asking you a question.
That's okay.
Are there any really strong recruiter profiles that come to mind immediately to you? And you don't have to necessarily say them, but versus LinkedIn?
Versus LinkedIn, no.
Interesting, isn't it?
But on LinkedIn, a lot of recruiters do have a good presence and they post consistently there. On Instagram, there's none really that actually spring to mind. Maybe one or two, but I think there's a big opportunity for recruiters to take that spot, because it definitely will be the way that a lot of business interactions are done on Instagram now, I think, moving forward. But it's very interesting you say that, because I'd never actually really thought of that before. But if you asked me to, say a big recruiter personality or something like that, or, recruiter with a good Instagram presence, there isn't really one that particularly springs to mind, to be honest. So I think there's a key opportunity there in the market.
There we go.
To take that spot. But that's really, really interesting. And something that I think stops people from wanting to build their personal brand or post was actually related to a post that I saw of yours on Instagram, which was that people were afraid they get no likes or no interaction.
Yep.
And even if they do get no likes, they think, oh, my post was a complete failure.
Yep.
Like, this isn't for me. I'm going to stop doing this. However, I'm sure you can explain about the post, but it's completely different, to what people actually perceive. Even if you make a post, you get maybe no likes, there's still going to be people that it will actually maybe inspire them. It will start a conversation. It just work in the back of their mind, but they won't show that on LinkedIn itself. So
it's kind of stored away almost, right? You either save it or you share it to somebody else. Or in my instance, I have an account which I used to use, which I don't. And I've kept it there because I end up just sharing. Like, I haven't got time to read that now. I'll share it to my other profile and I'll inbox it and I'll check it later. So definitely there's content that you see. But where that all spawned from was me being on the tube in London with my wife. We stood there. It was a packed tube. And people were just like numbly, mindlessly scrolling. They weren't even, and some of them would stop, look at it, go on. Some of them would be like, oh, yeah. And then they wouldn't do anything. They wouldn't they wouldn't comment, they wouldn't share, they wouldn't interact with the content. Scroll, next. I was like, how do you know if you've been successful if people aren't actually liking it? And obviously it comes down to engagement, or better yet, people will then approach you and go, yeah, I actually saw your post. It really resonated. I'm thinking, well, do you think you could like it? Do you think you could comment on it or maybe share it? Obviously people don't, because they might be worried about being seen by their bosses or friends. Worse yet, people being pulled down for being successful, which is a big thing in other communities, not necessarily here in the UAE, but I think in other communities people are scared to post about their success because they're worried about what somebody's going to say. Post away,
exactly. It opens so many more doors, I find. And it's, I completely agree. I think it's so interesting. People scroll mindlessly, not take action on any platform, and it leaves the content creators or producers thinking, oh, did this post hit? Did it actually work? Was it really engaged with? But you don't know what's happening on the other side, do you?
No.
You don't know what people are doing. But I just think in general, if you can just get in front of more people, it's always going to be, a net benefit for your business. More people just need to know about you. And I made a video about this not long ago for more online businesses.
Okay.
And it was really why I think in sales, of course, volume is really important. Obviously, the approach and how you do it is also just as important. But from a purely volume perspective, I likened it to online businesses now need to have traffic and footfall as if it was a business 20 years ago. The business in the most crowded city or crowded location in the middle of the town would get more footfall than one just in a rural area, right, with little footfall. And that business ultimately would grow, the one with the most footfall. And I think we see the same with online businesses. The ones that are growing the quickest have the most traffic on all their pages, and just the most activity. So I think that's what a lot of businesses need to optimize for. And liken it to back in the day, before everything was online, how would you maximize footfall to your business? Now, of course, it's not physical footfall, but digital footfall. And Instagram and platforms with, where you can reach out or you can reach thousands of people without actually going one-to-one are really important. So I think it just gives a big opportunity for people to use Instagram, especially recruiters. Now we've established there's that spot to be taken.
Do you think there's a real lack of knowledge though with it, Harry? Because people will say, oh yeah, like I know I should post more, or I know I should get an account, but why though? Like what are you actually doing it for? And do you actually have any help or guidance in terms of what you should be posting, when you should be posting it, times of the day, types of content? Is the right content for Instagram the same as the stuff for LinkedIn? Like, I think we've got this like society where it's like, oh yes, I have an Instagram account, but you're not using it. You're not using it properly. You're not using the social profiles as they should be. You're just posting about what you had for dinner last night and hoping somebody's going to go, oh yeah, nice, yeah, I think I'm going to have that tonight. No, use it, but it's true, right? It is true. You see some absolute garbage on the social profiles, and I'm not saying that it's the way that business should go, but footfall for sure, directing people back to your website, directing people to where you need them to register.
No, that's key. The quality, I think, of your post is very important. As you mentioned, I think you mentioned it early on in the podcast as well, quality. So when we say volume, I think, of course, you can just do volume from a purely numbers perspective, like, I'm just going to post what I had for dinner. I'm just going to post everything to get as much volume as possible. Now, that's obviously, for most people, not the best way to do things. I guess with the volume approach, you still learn over time what maybe posts that resonate with people the most. But I think ultimately bringing it back down to why you're making the content, what the purpose of this is going to help you build that sort of system or build the methodology around your content. Because I think that's really what it comes down to. What is the purpose of this post? Who is it going to impact? And then you can obviously make it resonate more with the audience. You can portray its value more. But instead of just posting something for the sake of it, thinking, why am I posting this? And what is the person on the receiving end getting from it? So as you said, it's same with everything. It's a value exchange. It's not just posting it really for the fun of it, although a lot of people do that, and I do that sometimes myself.
Listen, disclaimer, we all do it. We all talk about where we've been for dinner or whatever, and I'm not saying you shouldn't, because that adds the personal element. But if that's all you're going to post, then obviously there's a problem. Yeah,
definitely. I'm sure you have some tips on that as well. So personally, I'd say it's all about thinking, why am I posting this? What the purpose of the content is, and likening that to where you want to take your business. So if you're in like a growth phase, then you can maybe post tips that will attract your potential clients, or things that will be useful for your potential clients so they engage with it. What have you seen that's really helped you with your posts and get engagement on those and actually start to grow your Instagram?
Authenticity. Has to be. And I am not shy of what I put online. If you go on there, you'll be able to see I'm married, I have a wife, I have 2 dogs, I live in downtown, I have a Burj Khalifa view. Like you can see who I am, and it's authentic. I don't post things that I don't not own or that I don't not do just to get people to come and like me. Because the worst thing is, you got a Ferrari? No. You posted you have a Ferrari. Do you know what I mean? Like you've got to be totally authentic with it. So definitely that. And I'm going to throw everything that we've just said up on its head and say sometimes the posts where you just think, fuck it, often perform the best. And the other day I was just going through some old videos that I'd posted, and I was thinking, oh my God, the amount of views that one got, like such a rubbish video. Obviously to other people, it really wasn't. And then reels that you put hours of effort into, you think, oh yeah, that was going to be a good one, and I've got the movements and the transitions to the music. Nobody cares. Nobody's watching it. Nobody's looking at it. So I think authenticity, but also just sometimes posting in the moment, right? You know, if there's a topic or a relatable issue or something that's going on in the news that you can resonate with and that you can add value to, fine. But that can be difficult sometimes if you're on the go all the time, and you haven't necessarily got time to think, oh, you know, I should be posting. And again, you don't. And again, I'm probably going to upset some people, but I don't like the LinkedIn and the Instagram and the Facebook livers.
There's a lot of them out there.
Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Okay. Nobody's interested.
You tune in, you see 3 people live watching.
Don't. And I, whenever I've been interested in somebody online, I've done the notification, the bell, so that it tells you when that. I'm like, why have I asked you to be notified? I don't care about what you're doing. But some of the rubbish that you see where they're going live and you're like, really
just living their day-to-day lifestyle.
Tune out. I do not need to see you getting on the tube and getting your coffee from Pret. No, thank you.
No.
Tune out. It's boring. Nobody's interested. So I think definitely being authentic, because then when you do meet the person, there is a level of conversation that you can go beyond and go, oh yeah, I saw that on your Instagram, or oh yeah, I saw that you live here, or I saw that you have a dog. And then there's mutual interest that then it helps people to do better business with, right?
Absolutely.
Think of the business relationships you have. The strongest ones will be the ones where you know the most about that person.
Yeah, the relationship's the strongest. Yeah.
And you've just taken the exact word I was going to say, which is relationship. If you're working in recruitment, you have to liken it to the dating game, right? It's a matchmaking game. In the simplest form, you are matching somebody to something that you hope they're going to like, but you've got to get to know them. You've got to take your clients out on dates to get to know them, to get them interested in your service, to then build the account. And again, I think people really, really miss that element of recruitment. They don't liken it to the dating game. And if you've not been successful in dating, then maybe might think you might not be successful in recruitment, so apologies. But you know what I mean. I'm sure you would say some of the things you do, you could transcend into the dating world. Business to dating is
Definitely.
Similar, right?
There's actually a lot of similarities, to be honest. I think, especially in just with prospective clients, for example, if you do liken it to an actual relationship you're getting into, you're not going to rush into things. So I'm not sure about you, but sometimes we've rushed into things and not had the best clients, not had the best relationships.
No, because you want to sign the terms.
Exactly. You want the immediate pleasure and immediate gain without the long-term effects, right? And it just hurts you more in the long run. It's an interesting take on it. I don't think many people speak about that I've seen, but it is very similar. You know,
we're covering some topics today, Harry, that people don't usually talk about. But you wanted a good podcast, so I'm giving you it.
I appreciate it. We're covering some good stuff, which is amazing. But yeah, I really do think if you see, business development and client acquisition with prospective clients is more like you're building a relationship, taking them multiple dates, and there's that value exchange there as well. Especially with the dating game, both parties want to be happy with it, both sides want to be comfortable, and likening it to that, I think you can't go wrong, to be honest. Instead of just rushing into things. And then of course it lends itself with like purely like the CV scraping approach and things like that. If you're just going around dating loads and loads and loads of women, different one every day, no one's going to be happy with that, and you probably won't be happy yourself.
You actually, the way you described it is that's that immediate gain. It's that immediate like hit where you're like, okay, yeah. But then when you actually review and you go, well, actually that client doesn't really, they don't play well with the portfolio of clients that we already have, or actually they really want long payment terms, or they mentioned that they had bad cash flow issues, but because I wanted to get the terms signed, I just signed them. Whereas actually we shouldn't, you should hopefully, if you're successful, be able to say, no, Mr. Client, sorry, you're not quite right for us.
Yeah.
Or we're not quite right for you. But so many people don't admit that because they just want to sign as many as they can, and then the service level goes down.
I completely agree. I think something that I've noticed is either way, there's always going to be some sort of struggle, some sort of pain in a relationship. Either it's getting things right from the start and you've got to say the uncomfortable things and maybe set the expectations properly and say what's truly capable, or you rush into it and then the pain is experienced later down the line. I'm sure most people would rather just get out the bits at the beginning where you've got to be transparent, you've got to be truthful and set everything out right, and you have the pleasure in the long run, as opposed to just get the terms signed and then realise, oh, this wasn't quite what we wanted to do, but now we've got to live up to it, and it wasn't quite the terms signed that we wanted. So I think just delaying gratification, probably the most important thing for sure.
That's a good way of putting it, yeah.
Yeah, delaying gratification. I know we've only got a couple minutes left as well, so
It's gone
we'll
quickly.
wrap it up. It has gone extremely quickly. Before we finish, was there anything particularly that you want to cover or you want to bring up that we could talk about to do with your career or anything like that?
I actually don't think that we've not covered things. I think you've got a pretty good measure of who I am. I think we've been pretty clear that you should be using Instagram for recruitment, which, sorry, LinkedIn. And I definitely think you should want to do business with genuine, authentic people. Like that should be, again, liking it back to being in the dating game. You would want to date somebody genuine, okay? Mm-hmm. You would want to do business with somebody genuine. And I think so long as we can cut the BS sometimes that comes in business and recruitment, I think clients sometimes have unrealistic expectations, or they'll say, oh yeah, we want the role filling quickly, and you send them the profiles and then all of a sudden they go quiet. We've all been there. Yeah. So I think as long as you can have a good relationship with clients, you can be authentic, you can have a good personal brand. These are all things that I think you should be doing as a successful recruiter in business. And I hope that people will take some golden nuggets away from today.
Absolutely, I'm sure they will. And just before you finish, one last thing about finding good, transparent, honest people. You have a club as well, the YP
yes.
Club out in Dubai. So for those who are
now they're going to kill
in,
me for not mentioning YP Club. Eh?
No, I thought we'd get it in there quickly. So for people tuning in that live in Dubai,
yes,
if you want to just give a little plug to YP Club.
So YP Club is basically a private members club, okay, to all intents and purposes, and we were founded by a guy called Cameron with a C, not Cameron with a K. I'm one of the founding members of YP Club, and in essence, it brings successful or new business owners, entrepreneurs, corporate individuals together to do better business. When it started, I think people thought, oh, no, not another networking club. We don't need another bloody networking club. But over the time and the years that it's been established, there's been a real value exchange for people coming together, for you to be able to exchange business ideas, for you to make friends, which when you're moving to Dubai, and of course since Dubai launch, we've now got Abu Dhabi and we've also got Saudi as cities that we operate in, people are starting to see the real value of having a good networking group to be part of. And that's not to say that there aren't other good networking groups out there. There are, but something quite unique about YP is the demography of the group and the fact that everybody is in business and wants to do better business with each other. And we have some amazing speakers. I was at one yesterday to do with venture capital funding, and it's just all of the, I don't want to say young, because I don't even know whether I class myself as young, but young, energetic, vibey people coming together and socializing and wanting to do better business with each other is great. So yeah, you should definitely check out YP Club. If you're new to Dubai, it's a great inroad for people to be able to make good connections in a network. But if you're established in Dubai like I am, it's also great to do business in as well. And I made some great friends along the way. So
fantastic. That's what it's all about as well, having fun along the way. So I think we're going to wrap up there.
Sure.
If people want to find you, Cameron, where can they find you online?
Obviously Instagram, please. My handle is RecruiterCam. Definitely check me out on LinkedIn as well, because I think it's really important to connect on both platforms. Find me online.
Perfect. Well, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll see you on the next one.